Welcome back, everybody, to Niners Now, and thank you to Underdog Fantasy for sponsoring this video. I'm your host, Brady Grustas, at GrustasBrady on X. You can follow me there. And the 49ers continue to focus on the wide receivers in this year's draft. We have yet another receiver prospect to discuss today. We got a player profile coming up. And of course, stick around until later in the show because the Niners could still add a veteran receiver as well, one who is looking to return to the league after a brief hiatus. Of course, before we begin, go ahead and subscribe down below. The support has been amazing recently, so please leave a like, leave a comment, subscribe down below. Like I said, if you have the ability to, go ahead and hype the video. I don't know if everybody's got the ability. I don't totally know who gets it and who doesn't, but if you see the hype button down below, go ahead and click that. It does wonders for the video and for the channel. So once again, huge shout out to Underdog Fantasy. Thanks to everybody for all the support. Let's get right into the video. Starting with the big news of the day, according to Field Yates, the 49ers have hosted Washington wide receiver Denzel Boston on one of their 30 visits on Tuesday. Now, of course, if you are not aware, the 30 visits are these things that NFL teams can do where they have 30 visitation slots that they can give to any player in the NFL draft that they so choose. The player comes to the team facility, they get to do a workout, they get to do interviews, they get to do a medical check, all this stuff. It's a great way to get extra intel. And the 49ers have used one of those slots on wide receiver Denzel Boston. Clearly, there's focus on the wide receiver class. Serious focus. This is now the third wide receiver that the 49ers have used a top 30 visit on. Seems like guys like Arizona State's Jordan Tyson, USC's Mekhi Lemon, Ohio State's Carnell Tate. Seems like those guys are probably going to be off the board by pick 27, but the Niners are still investing time and energy into that position. They met with Omar Cooper Jr. from Indiana. They met with Casey Concepcion from Texas A&M, and now they are meeting with Washington's own Denzel Boston, right? Those are all guys who are projected to be there at 27 or at least close to 27, and all guys who I've personally at least seen mocked to the Niners at some point in this draft cycle. Does this necessarily mean that it will be wide receiver at 27? No, right? There's always a chance. The draft is full of randomness. Literally anything could happen. The Niners might not even pick in round one. You know, they could trade back, they could trade up, could be anything. But we'll have to see, right? But there is plenty of reason, to believe that they could go wide receiver round one. And all the interest that has been reported so far certainly seems to indicate that. If I had to guess, I would probably say they take receiver in round one, which I certainly don't mind. I think there's a lot of room for that on the roster as is. But now let's talk about Denzel Boston specifically. What does he bring to the table that some other receiver prospects might not? We've got a player profile here. You guys have been loving the player profile series. I've been loving doing them. I like studying these players. It's a lot of fun to bring this intel to you guys. But let's talk about Denzel Boston. The pros for him have to do a lot with the physicals, right? He's got a great frame. He's 6'4", 212 pounds with 32-inch arms and nearly 10-inch hands, which are both great metrics for wide receivers. 6'4" is great. He's over 200 pounds, so he's not, skinny as a twig, right? But that long wingspan and the big hands, that's a big deal, and that really helps receivers, especially with a guy like Denzel Boston, who's got a huge catch radius, really good body control. He's a great red zone weapon. He scored 11 touchdowns last year. That was top 10 in the entire country for college players. He's got nice hands, and he can pluck a ball out of pretty much anywhere in the vicinity, right? A lot like a guy like Mike Evans, who you throw it anywhere near him, he's probably coming down with the football. Saw a lot of that with Denzel Boston, and he had to make some pretty crazy catches because I did not love the quarterback play. Watching Washington, it was not my favorite, not my favorite eval, but it was great to see what Boston could do in spite of some of the missed throws. He's also fantastic blocker due to his size. He's got great effort and great technique as well. He's got some wild highlight reel catches, makes some great plays through contact, over the middle, deep down the sideline, right? He makes a bunch of incredible catches. His hands are certainly one of the biggest selling points of his game. I think he's a short-term Jawan Jennings, and that is a huge compliment, right? He can, day one, step in and be sort of a big slot receiver at 6'4", a blocking specialist who you can use Like they would often have Juwan Jennings line up close to the line of scrimmage, give a nice big block on a defensive end or a blitzing linebacker or whoever, and then move out to the second level and, annihilate a defensive back as well. I think Boston can absolutely do that immediately on his first day of rookie minicamp. I think he's also, got some great red zone value. We saw Juwan Jennings turn into the #1 red zone target for the 49ers this past season, especially once George Kittle was hurt. And I think that's something they're really going to miss. They brought in Mike Evans. That should help a lot. But, if Mike Evans only sticks around for a year, you're going to need a guy to fill that role. And I think that Denzel Boston could certainly be that go-to red zone wide receiver. He even threw a touchdown against Illinois, kind of like Juwan Jennings, former quarterback, showed off his arm plenty of times with the 49ers. Denzel Boston maybe has a little trick play throw in him as well. I think ultimately, Boston is a useful NFL player with room to grow, right? He is plenty physical. He's got a great frame, great catch radius. He's also a nice route runner with some pretty good footwork. He's definitely not like a lumbering guy like many players at his size. Even a guy like DK Metcalf, I think, was less polished coming out of, Ole Miss. Now, I think there are plenty of things that DK Metcalf does better than Denzel Boston, but I think Boston's got some sneaky speed to him. He didn't run a 40 at the combine, and I was expecting to see a guy who would be, high 4.5s, low 4.6s, but I think he could certainly have cracked, the 4.4s if he did decide to run. He's got some really deceptive long speed, and they also ran a couple of screens for him at Washington, and he was able to make great use of those, showed off a little yards after catch, which, of course, 49ers love, right? He was also a punt returner, which is crazy to have a 6'4" punt returner. Wild stuff. But Boston was a pretty fun watch. I certainly liked him. I think he's got a lot going for him. But it's not all perfect, right? There are some cons, right? We talked about the pros, but with the cons, I don't really see the wiggle or the nuanced separation in his game. I think he can win, and I think he's a good route runner, but if he's not winning like outright off the line of scrimmage or on his in cut or on his outbreaker, then there's not any separation. I think he struggles to win late in routes. Like if a cornerback is hanging with him, then he's not going to last second, break away and create a little bit of separation. For example, that's something that Mike Evans is really, really good at. He hangs his hat on that, not the best athlete out there on the field, but he's huge and he's got a lot of nuance at the very late ends of his routes. And I didn't see that with Denzel Boston. I think that's something he would really need to add at the NFL level. And that's a tricky thing to do. It's not easy. That's why players who can do that are so well regarded at the NFL level. I also don't think he is a consistent deep ball threat. I think he shows flashes. Absolutely. He's got that sneaky deep speed. He's got, nice hands. He's got all the tools for it, but I would have liked to see him be more consistent deep down the field. I think he's got a specialized skill set. I'm not convinced that he is an X-receiver long-term at the NFL level. And I'm worried about his archetype, right? Bigger guys over 6'4" who don't have, crazy speed tend to struggle at the NFL level sometimes. There are success stories like Mike Evans or like Michael Pittman, but there's also pretty massive failures. Xavier Legette, Keon Coleman, two guys from the 2024 class who have really struggled, who have pretty similar archetypes to Denzel Boston. I have a little bit more belief in Boston than I did in like a Keon Coleman, but we'll have to see, right? I wouldn't take Boston round 1. I think there's too many question marks. I wouldn't take him at 27. But I would totally feel comfortable taking him in a trade back situation. He's a second round player for me. I've got him top 45 in this class. So I think if the Niners move back at the end of round 1 into, the 40s-ish range, I think that's a totally acceptable time to take Denzel Boston. And if they like him, I could certainly see that happening. But what do you think of Denzel Boston? Let me know down below in the comments section. Have you watched him? Have you not? If you haven't, check out the highlights and let me know what you think in the comments section. Now, before we go any further, got a quick word here from our sponsor, Underdog. Fast breaks, buzzer beaters, and block parties are back, and Underdog is the best place to get in on all the action. Playing on Underdog is easy. Just pick whether your favorite players will go higher or lower on stats like points, rebounds, steals, and more. Get your picks right, and you could win up to 5,000 times your cash. This week on Underdog, I'm looking at Clippers at Bucks. I'm going to take Darius Garland for lower than 0.5 double-doubles and Kawhi Leonard for higher than 27.5 points. Download the app today and use promo code FOOTBALLFAN to score $75 in bonus entries when you play your first $5. That's promo code FOOTBALLFAN. Underdog. Make picks, win money.
Must be 18 plus. 19 plus in Alabama, Nebraska. 19 plus in Colorado for some games. 21 plus in Arizona, Massachusetts, and Virginia. And present in a state where Underdog Fantasy operates. Terms apply. See assets.underdogfantasy.com/play and get terms DFSTML for details. Offer not valid in Maryland, Michigan, New Jersey, New York, Ohio, and Pennsylvania. Concerned with your play? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit www.ncpgambling.org. In New York, call the 24/7 helpline at 1-878 or text HOMI 467-369.
So we talked about a potential rookie receiver that the 49ers could add, but what about a veteran? What about a guy who's a little longer in the tooth, who's been around the NFL for quite some time? Odell Beckham Jr. Has been reportedly talking about returning to the NFL. On Tuesday, Jordan Schultz reported that Odell was getting some interest around the league and that he fully intends to play in 2026 if he gets an opportunity after not playing at all in 2025. Now, this is notable because, in case you missed it, Odell Beckham Jr. participated in the Fanatics Flag Football Classic last weekend with the Wildcats team. He played alongside guys like Luke Kuechly, Joe Burrow, Kyle Juszczyk, and he was coached by none other than Kyle Shanahan. Odell was a fantastic player when he was healthy in the NFL. Those injuries really took a toll on his career. Not having an ACL, brutal for Odell's career. Really fell off towards the end of it. Got hurt with Miami Dolphins in 2024, didn't play last year, so we'll see what he's got left. I really don't know, but could be a very interesting flyer option. I mean, if nothing else, it would be pretty fun to watch Odell Beckham Jr. play in the preseason in the red and gold. He's a guy that I remember back when he was in his heyday, I wanted him on the Niners so bad. When there were trade rumors, when he got moved to Cleveland, I believe that the 49ers were interested. I could be wrong on that, but seems like there's long been respect between Kyle Shanahan and Odell Beckham Jr. They worked together in the flag football game, and who knows? Maybe Kyle will want to reunite with Odell after seeing him up close and personal this past weekend. Odell also had a pretty sweet catch. He looked as good as ever. Well, maybe not as good as ever, but he looked NFL caliber in that flag football game. So what do you think? Should the Niners reunite Odell and Kyle Shanahan? Let me know down below in the comments. Speaking of the comments, it's time for our final segment here, the comment section, where I go over some of your comments, give my thoughts and opinions. Thank you to everybody who comments. I read every single one. If you'd like to be featured, all you got to do is leave a comment, right? The more comments you leave, the more likely you are to be featured. Special thanks to the 3 who I have featured here today. First comment now from Hakeem. Moneyball. The Niners are playing Moneyball, exactly what I hoped for since the movie was out. Most of our acquisitions fit the gets on base in the metaphorical sense. This is especially true with our offensive line, and I stand by my assertion. Toth will be our starting center by the 5th game via Brendel benching or injury. Hashtag bank on it. Love this take, Hakeem, and I love that you are defending it with your last breath. If you haven't seen Moneyball, the entire plot is basically based around a baseball team who gets cheaper by acquiring these quality players who can fill a very specific role at a discount. It's a pretty cool underdog story. Very great movie. Definitely go watch Moneyball if you haven't. And I do think that the 49ers are kind of moneyballing a bit this year. I don't think that like Osa Odigizua is a Moneyball move. I don't think even Dre Greenlaw is a Moneyball move. But as a whole, especially on the offensive line, the 49ers are playing the Moneyball game. As for Brett Toth, Hakeem, I think you're his number 1 fan. I love it. I'll take the over on 5 games for Brett Toth to start. But we shall see, right? That's a pretty fun side bet going into the offseason and training camp. We'll see what happens in the draft with the offensive line. That might make it a little trickier for Brett Toth to get some action. But a fun little storyline that I will certainly be keeping an eye on. And if he plays well, we'll be thinking of you, Hakeem. Next comment from North. The Niners are 1 year away from a full rebuild. They need to draft the absolute best player available at the position they're drafting at and keep that same theme throughout the draft. I like this in theory, right? If the best player at 27 is a quarterback, though, you can't take him. You just can't. It's bad team building. But otherwise, I'm all for it. BPA is generally, in my opinion, the best way to attack the draft. And now, depending on roster holes and roster needs, you might not always be afforded the luxury to do that. You might not always have the luxury to ignore need in the draft. But I do think the Niners have done a pretty good job this offseason, at least giving themselves flexibility. And flexibility means best player available to me, right? This could mean that the Niners take kind of a weird position at 27. If there is, a guy who is truly at the top of their board, could be a linebacker, could be a tight end, could be a defensive tackle in round 1. I'd be pretty shocked if it was a defensive tackle. This is not the strongest class, but I don't care. I think as long as they take the top guy on their board, I'm for it, right? And I'm sure whoever they draft, they're going to be like, we love this guy who's at the top of their board. They do that every year. Every team does that every year. But as long as it's true, then I'm all for it. I think that I trust the scouting, and I think this guy will work out, whoever it ends up being, right? Last comment now from Dino. Dino says, keep talking and taking polls on what first and second round picks the Niners will make till the draft. It entices us to watch and follow. Well, thank you, Dino. That's my goal, right? I'm glad you guys have enjoyed the videos, gotten some value out of these. I really like making them. We got plenty more prospects to cover. I kind of got to start cranking out some more scouting reports here. Leave a comment with a guy that you think I should cover on the channel. I'm already planning on talking about a couple of guys. Zion Young is on the list. Bunch of receivers. Omar Cooper Jr., Chris Bell, Jeremy Bernard, I want to do. I've got evals for those guys. And Lee Hunter at defensive tackle, I really like. I'm excited to talk about him, even if he doesn't end up a 49er. But I want to hear your suggestions. I want to hear who you guys want to hear about, and I'd be happy to study those players. So that's all for today's episode, folks. Do you think that the Niners should take Denzel Boston at pick 27? And do you think the Niners will sign Odell Beckham Jr.? Let me know down below in the comments. Let me know if you enjoyed this episode. Leave a comment, leave a like. Let me know if there's any topics that you'd like to see me cover. Thank you all for watching, and subscribe for 49ers videos 5 days a week. I'm Brady Grustas, @GrustasBrady on X. This has been Niners Now, and I will see you tomorrow.